Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast,
a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Aniston, and this is Empowered Life.
Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Riekstins. I'm your host, and today we're joined by just an incredible human being that is creating a profound impact out and in the world. If you follow the podcast, if you follow me, you know that I am a champion of people that are just, supporting and developing people all around them in every capacity. And today's guest is doing it just on a completely different level, impacting more than 30,000 people every single year with the work that he does out and in the world. And I think you're going to have a real treat today. You're going to love him. You're going to love what he does if you haven't already found him. And talk about somebody who is expanding the possibility of what we can do. He is a co-creator and co-founder of more than 3 businesses that are all achieving multi-millions. One of his companies is EverCoach, which is an extension of Mindvalley. He has the Dharma Coaching Institute, Global Grit. And in addition to that, this incredible human being is a successful multi-author. He's got a top podcast. He's a master coach. And, when I first came across him was when he was doing his work as the CEO of Mindvalley. And I am a huge fan of Mindvalley. I love to inhale information. My wife and I will wake up on a Saturday morning and our cartoons is sitting down and watching some form of self-development series. And it's usually something to do with Mindvalley. So man, to have you on the show today is just an incredible honor and a privilege. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Coach Ajit to the show. This is just such a privilege. And man, I just want to start off by saying again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Rudi. Thank you. You're so kind and so generous in the introduction. Thank you very much. What you would love to know, or I'm guessing you'll appreciate it because you love Mindvalley, is we just became Mindvalley Coach instead of EverCoach. We were acquired fully by the company, and now we are just the coaching division of Mindvalley. So it's amazing and it's awesome, and it's great to get that acquisition under the belt as well.
Oh my gosh, you are just so successful in every area, and rarely do I actually speak into somebody's success because I don't think success is defined by dollars. I don't think success is defined by how many companies you have or the footprint or your buildings and all the material wealth that so many people are chasing. The reason I used your success in the very beginning is because you have literally anchored into, touched, and transformed so many different industries. And you're doing it at such a high level, but everything that you do, and if anyone was listening and paying attention, it is all in the further pursuit and development of people. I watch you from afar and I see who you are and how you're showing out in the world. You are a multi-passionate person. You are somebody that literally can just achieve anything and everything. You speak into, passion and purpose, and that success is a natural step in following what is your purpose. And I would love for you to speak into what does that really mean to you for somebody to follow their purpose, because you clearly are following your purpose because the success is following you and it just seems so effortless. I know it's not, but it seems so.
Rudi, it's so interesting because you touched upon a great point, which is a lot of us define success based on the validation of the world or what the world sees us as, which is why as you look at success videos, they often relate to how much financial success a person has. And so we correlate to saying, you know what, people really become successful by working extra hard, or people become successful by slogging through the night. There are really quote unquote successful people that have commented things like, oh, you can choose one of 3 things in your life. You can choose your family, or you can use success, or you can choose friendships. You can choose only one of these 3 things. And to me, it was always a kind of an idea that I didn't really resonate with. I was like, if I'm here on this world, if we are here on this planet, what's the point of living a single dimensional success? What would it really mean for me if I, yes, became wildly wealthy, but me and my wife were not connected, or my children hated seeing my face and my guts, or if I didn't have any friendships and I kept going and telling people, it's lonely at top. And it sounds romantic and beautiful and esoteric and wonderful, but it's not. It's a horrible way to live, at least from my experience. And so very early on, I redefined success for myself to be able to ask the question of what's the life I get to live today? And if I get to live the life that is in close alignment with what I want to live, I am successful. It is not correlated to the dollars I make. Of course, dollars contribute to that life. So it's not like, all right, I'm not sitting in a corner by myself saying money doesn't matter. Money definitely matters, and you want to be abundant and you want to be wealthy. But at the same point in time, you got to dimensionalize your life and really think what is success really meaning for you. I also want to be wildly energetic. I don't want to be one of these people who are just working so hard that at the end of the day, I can't even hang out with my kid, or who's eating so unhealthily that they are just always drained and tired and consumed by the energy, or living off caffeine or living off alcohol. So I very purposefully started to write as to what does success mean for me? How do I define it? And what I've found true for my clients and for myself is the clearer you define what your life will look like or should look like or will mean something to you, the more likely it is that you will live that life. See, one of the things that I've realized about human beings, all of us, is that we are amazing manifestors. We are amazing creators once we know what we are creating and we become present to it. The challenge with most of us is we would never write it out. We would never define it. We would be concerned about actually saying one thing as our thing. We will always stay distracted and confused and unsure. And that's exactly why we stay in the cycle of not really getting anything, because we haven't defined where we want to go ever. Or most of the time, we don't really define it or stick to it long enough that it actually manifests in our life. So with purpose is the same thing. Is most of the people have challenges in today's life because they don't have a long-term purpose. What I found is most problems in your business will become obsolete the moment you know where you are going. Most problems in your life will become obsolete if you know where you're going, because when you have a long-term vision of where you're going, short-term chaos just tends to disappear. Short-term decision-making tends to disappear. And so my invitation to anyone that is listening to this conversation or is in an exploratory phase of their life is to invest some time in really knowing, where are you going? What is your purpose? What is the direction of travel you would like to have?
You know, you have spoken so beautifully into my belief that the greatest levels of joy, fulfillment, and freedom that we're ever going to have in life is to give selflessly of ourselves every day in every single way. And I spend the bulk of my time bringing that message into corporations and into people's businesses, because so many people are wanting to achieve a certain status in life, but they're doing it because they're chasing a dollar value or an elusive award or title. And it's really about when we turn around and give back. And that's really what you were sharing, is about bringing your purpose or your passion into what you're doing. You did allude to, though, we need to be able to define where we are going. And if we can define where we're going, it is going to support us. So how would you support someone right now who is feeling a little lost and a little burnt out and is wanting a little bit of clarity to define where they're going? And then once they've defined that, what do they do with that information?
So there are two ways I've found people to really discover their purpose. I mean, there are many ways, but two most prominent and dominant ways. One is some individuals, and I would say that's maybe 5% of the world, wakes up to their purpose, or the purpose is bestowed upon them. They have an insight, an epiphany, and suddenly they go, whoa, this is the truth of my life. This is what I need to do. Now, that's about 5% of the world. But that's pretty much it. So if you're in the 5%, lucky 5%, congratulations to you. You already know your purpose. Good for you, right? But the 95% of us have a little bit of a more tough time in really figuring out what our purpose is. And so what I like to call it, instead of a purpose to get to, is to call it a living purpose to live into. And the reason why I say that is because when you don't know where you're going, or when you're not bestowed upon with that direction of, hey, this is exactly what you need to do, is you almost make it up until you figure it out, right? What does that mean? So for example, let's say if today you were listening to this podcast and you're like, listen, I'm such a great conversationalist. I love listening and I love talking to people, right? What may be present to you is that Maybe you want to start a podcast. Maybe you want to create conversations like this one, like you are creating, Rudi, and be able to be a messenger to the world, because that's what a podcaster's role is. We are all messengers. I have a podcast. I do the same. We bring great individuals, come on our podcast, and we are messengers of their message, or somewhere we are holding that message, holding them accountable to that message, and then bringing it out to the world in a way that makes sense to that audience, right? That's the job, right? So if, let's say, you're present to it, you would go, well, that's what I want to do. I want to be a messenger to the world of great messages that I see around. Fantastic, phenomenal. You'll start moving towards it. And as you start moving towards it, you may find that you want to be a messenger to the world, but you don't want to be the face on the camera, for example. Right? You may find you actually like bringing people together that are messengers of the world. Now, suddenly you're a podcast producer, not a podcaster, right? But you need to have the vision of where you're going, right? So if I know that, hey, listen, what is being present to me right now, at least for the next 5 years, is that I want to support messages being deployed in the world outside, right? I want positivity to be spread outside in the world. I want to have a meaningful impact in the world outside, and I'm going to stick to that for the next 5 years. What will happen is during those 5 years, and the first 5 is always hard, in the first 5 years of you committing to that process, what will happen is you will start to discover what is that is really true for you as you're moving towards that direction. See, what tends to happen is a lot of times we commit to a 5-year vision, but we give up in 5 days. Or we commit to a 5-year vision and we set a process for 5 months and then say, oh, this is not working for me. So you've never given yourself truly a chance to say, is this really what is my journey or not? Because life compounds. It's almost like if you make a good financial investment, and I'm sure you've heard financial investors talk about it all the time, is if you make a financial investment in your 20s versus in your 30s, you're more likely to be a millionaire by 60, just because you started investing in your 20s, even if it was a lesser amount per month. Right? I don't have the exact numbers that I can recall, but I think the numbers say something like you can invest about 65% of what you would invest starting 30. So if you were spending 100 or investing $100, say in your 30s versus $65 in your 20s, you're more likely still to be a millionaire in your 60s because of the 25, because it's a compounding effect. So what you want to think about is purpose is like that. Life is like that. Life compounds on top of each other. So if you invest 5 years of your life in saying, I'm just going to find my purpose for the next 50 years of my life, all right, what will happen is the first 5 years, while it may look like a grind, what you will learn in that journey is the true purpose that you were meant to. Right? And purpose is a combination of several things. One is your true desire, your heart of hearts, right? Something that instinctually you feel like this is it, right? But it has a unique combination of skills, because there is a particular set of skills that are more aligned with a particular kind of purpose, right? Today, I can't wake up and say, oh, my purpose was to play basketball. I have no skills in it. So I can say my purpose is to play basketball, but I'm not going to meet my purpose ever, because I never built skills. I didn't build a body for it. I didn't build any talent for it. I didn't build any abilities in that domain. Whereas if you are pursuing a purpose for 5 years, you'll end up inherently creating certain level of skills in that direction. And because you have some level of skills in that direction, when you are ready for the clear definition of purpose, you will have also momentum in that direction, leading to a compounding effect. So purpose is a function of either it gets bestowed on you. That's one way of finding it. Second is to make believe or make up a purpose for the next 5 years and start moving towards it and build skills, activities, and talents around it. And as you create some traction, you get clarity of what your real purpose is. Let me give you a story, because it's easy to understand what I'm talking about in that sense. When I started coaching, my purpose was, can I help other businesses do a little better than what they're doing? Because I would meet a lot of entrepreneurs that were doing 1 to 3 million in revenue. And I was like, you can be so much bigger because you're a talented individual. You already have traction, because once you've hit 1 million, it's easier to get to 5 and then to 30. I was like, I want to help these people. And that's literally how I started. I had no intention to train coaches. I had no intention to life coach anyone or work on health with individuals. I had no intention to any of that. My intention was very simple. I want to help businesses that are doing 1 to 3 million to get to 5 to 10 million, because it's something that I feel like I have inherent ability for, and I know what exactly to do. So I was like, all right, let me work with these businesses. And that's how I started. The more I worked with the businesses, the more I realized that I was mostly life coaching. When I was working with businesses, I was actually doing very little business coaching, because business coaching is not really required at that level. It's more the person that's the problem than the business that's the problem, right? Because you're stuck in your ways, you're stuck in your mindset, you're stuck in your leadership style. That's why you're stuck at 1 to 3 million. It's not because you don't have a product or you don't know how to build a system. It's a very different set of problems. So I ended up doing a lot of life coaching for these teams and companies and CEOs and founders. I realized, wow, there's an inherent ability, an inherent desire and requirement that entrepreneurs that are doing this level of 1 to 3 million need to have as life coaches or as individuals. So I need to build life coaching skills. That's how I became a life coach. And then I started life coaching across any different area of life that came to me, because I was like, oh, if I can do this for an entrepreneur, I can definitely do it for a team member. I can definitely do it for a CEO. I can definitely do it in these different containers for a relationship. And then I started getting hired for those. Again, my intention had nothing to do with training coaches. You see? So what I was doing for the first 5 years of my career was actually coaching. I was not actually training anyone. But what happened the first 5 years is because I kept going into the market and kept running out of how many clients I could serve, I was like, I need more people that can do this. And the more I inquired outside, the more I found that individuals that were coaching were never really working on their skills of coaching. They were just so concerned about marketing and selling that they forgot that why people buy is because you can do something for the person. It's not because your marketing is savvy. Right? People don't buy from us because our marketing is savvy. People buy from us because they can get a result by working with us, right? And as I realized that, I was like, if everybody keeps teaching these coaches how to market, who's going to teach them how to coach? We have a problem here, my friend. We are forgetting the product makes the business, not the marketing. And so I had to lean into building EverCoach more intentionally, because I was like, oh, there needs to be a place where people can learn from as many diverse set of coaches so people can actually develop their skills of coaching. And that led me to also find eventually that what I was doing with my clients was so unique and different that it had to be packaged into products. And once we put them into products of certified business coach, certified life coach, and so on and so forth, we got attention from a larger marketplace for people to say, that is one of the best programs we've had. Now, in total, and we've been doing this certifications for about three and a half years. We have 2,600 testimonials. We have a testimonial rate of about 25% of all students that take our program give us a written case study. And we don't incentivize for this. This is just us asking, would you like to? And they do absolutely write us a case study. And that could only happen because we were able to build a superior product. Now, why am I telling this story? Is because when I started the first 5 years, I didn't know I was building this. I realized that I was building this when I was doing the first 5 years, and it was present to me, oh, my mission in life is not just to coach. The reason why I was coaching is because my mission in life is to coach 1 million coaches or train 1 million coaches to be able to go out in the world and impact society. Because guess what is happening in society right now? Everything is changing. Everything, from AI to political systems to how we interact with each other and so on and so forth. And if all of it will change, who is it that is really supporting people or individuals with change? Government is not. They will not. They just put a policy in place. That's all they do. They're not really humanly supporting anyone. We need coaches. And so it was present to me that, oh, I want to impact 1 million coaches. And that's how you find your purpose sometimes. Now, also, I am present to this idea, and I'm hoping the people who are listening also get present to this idea, is that it might be that 10 years from now, if you meet me, I might not be interested in impacting 1 million coaches in my life. I might be in another season of a 3 or 5 year term where I'm rediscovering what my purpose is. And that's also okay. A lot of times we think there's going to be this purpose that's going to just stay forever, all our lives. Some people are lucky like that. And it's beautiful for them, good for them. But most of us are going to be lucky in a different way. We'll be lucky to be bestowed many different iterations of purposes through our life. We just have to get comfortable that that's how life is. That's how we enjoy life. That's why universe gives us so many opportunities. But it is for us to seize it. I went on a rant there, Rudi.
Oh my gosh, man, you have touched on so many things that I don't even know where I want to dive in further, because there's so many people that are out there who are living a life wishing they could be living another life, but they say, I don't know what that life is. I just know there's something more. I know I want more, but I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my passion is. And I'm one of those people that knew who he wanted to be from when I was young. And at 16 years old, I saw a motivational speaker come into my school, and I was like, that's what I will do with the rest of my life. And it's like, I've never given up on who I want to be and how I want to serve out in the world. But almost everybody that I meet, like you say, 95% of people, they still trying to figure out who they are. And you've beautifully articulated, how can you be wildly successful while building the plane as you fly? You know, my wife will say to me all the time, oh, when are we going to do this thing? And I'll say, well, I'm not ready yet. And she says, well, you're never going to be ready. We just need to do it, and we just have to start doing it. And then we figure it out as we go. And rarely do we go where we were intending. It's always something else. It's always something more beautiful and something more profound. And so I think people can really benefit from that. But you've touched on something else that I love so much about the work that you do out in the world. And you talk about shaking identity. And you just spoke into it right now, because you were saying, you might meet me in a few years and I might not have this desire or this passion. And for so many of us, we identify with who we are or how we show up or what we've achieved. And it's like, oh, look at me, I'm the CEO of this business. Or look at me, I drive a Lamborghini. Or look at me, I'm dating this, trophy husband or wife. And so people identify with a very specific way. Then when that changes, now they're lost. And so you actually teach people to lean into the shaking of their identity. Can you speak into that a little?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we are tricked into, and you kind of alluded to that as well, is we're tricked into that you are your title, or you are your degree, or you are your country, or you are your blank, whatever that is that you identify with, your sports team. You're not. You are actually something that's under it. There was a chance meeting not a chance meeting, it was a scheduled meeting. I had a meeting with he's my mentor, he's a friend, he's a billionaire, he's a really nice guy. His name is Naveen Jain. And I was sitting down with him, just having a casual chat. And one of the conversations, he asked me, Ajit, what is it that you're good at? And I did the classic mistake of what everybody does. Like, I'm really good at coaching. I'm really good at looking at people and helping them really solve challenges in their life and fulfill the desires that they might have. And he was like, no, that's not what you're really good at. What are you good at that makes you good at coaching? What are you good at that makes you good at coaching? See, that's the underlying understanding of identity that we all forget. And I give my example because even I forget sometimes. It's like, I am not the title. I am the thing that got me the title, right? So if you think, hey, I am the CEO of a company, yes, you are CEO of the company, but that's not your identity. Who you are is underneath it. You became the CEO because maybe you were really good at people. Maybe you were really good at a particular skill in the company. It could be because you are really good at seeing two different unrelated ideas, making a new idea out of it. There might be so many different reasons why you became or got the title. And usually you get the title much after you already are the thing or the person, right? So if you see a successful speaker on stage, know that that successful speaker got the title of being successful probably 5 years after they were already that good, that they should have gotten it. Because the realization of the title always happens a few months to a few years later than the person's capability. You don't get the title if you don't have the capability. You won't get the task. Universe will not give you an assignment, a challenge it thinks you cannot tackle. It will only give you an assignment, a challenge, a task that the universe believes you're meant to overcome, so the version of you can be unlocked, right? With that understanding, if you get curious about what is truly my identity, you will find it's a function of a lot of past experiences that you ruminated on and made up a meaning. None of it is true, right? So for example, if somebody now asks me, hey, Ajit, what are you really good at? I say, I'm very good at observing patterns and connecting two unrelated ideas into creating something very unique. That's what I'm really good at. If you're asking me work-wise, that's what I'm good at, right? I'm really good at working with individuals because I am really good at working with individuals. I can take a completely unmotivated team and motivate them towards a common vision, common purpose, and creating something that is beautiful and large and wonderful. I'm really good at that, right? I'm really good at understanding individuals and working with them, right? But that is something that is based on my past experiences, understanding of myself, and what I ruminated on, and so I made up all these different meanings. I am actually good at maybe 10 other things than what I just said. And that effectively means that if I want to ever expand my identity to be, I'm a tech founder, I probably can do it. I don't have to be a technically genius person to be a tech founder, right? But a different set of skills that I do not acknowledge right now, that I do have within me, can be unlocked. And that identity can be revealed. Most of us live only a limited set of conscious decisions, conscious ruminations that we have made up as meaning as who we are. If you think you are a beautiful person or you're not a beautiful person, if you think you are healthy or you're unfit, all of those are meanings you made based on somebody said something, somebody did something, something that happened in our childhood, something that happened in our adulthood, and we ruminated on it long enough, or that was repeated to us long enough that we said, that is who I am. That's a lie that you've told yourself long enough. It's not who you are, right? And that's true for anything really. Anything that you may think about in context of looks, it could be in context of intelligence, it could be in context of body, it could be in context of everything. That effectively means if we bring attention to what we have been ruminating on, that we have made to be our truth, it's very likely that we can change the rumination and in a matter of 90 days, change that identity to anything else that we choose to. Right? What does that mean? So let's say, for example, if somebody on this who's listening to this conversation goes, I'm not really good with people, I can't really build a company. Let's say hypothetically. That's a ruminating thought that you have told yourself again and again, most likely because of some childhood experience where you didn't interact well with people or somebody belittled you and you're like, I don't want to be good with people. Right? And so you kind of gave up on that idea and you moved on and you started telling everyone, I'm an introvert, which is the worst thing. Nobody's an introvert. That's a lie. Greatest lie ever told. Right? You're not an introvert, you're not an extrovert, you're a human being. That's all you are. Right? Personality tests are garbage, don't take them. Right? And because there is such a distinction in who we are as individuals, it's very hard to really put ourselves into a box and a label. Right? For the longest time in my life, I thought I was an introvert. And it was a defense mechanism that I had created. I had created the defense mechanism of the introvert because as a child, I actually used to perform at parties. I grew up in India. And in India, at weddings, we would do like dance parties where literally everybody, and this is like hundreds of people, watching one person perform on stage, literally. At least that was the culture at the time, and it still happens. Right. And so I was one of those star appearances that would come. I was a kid who danced really well. And so it would be like, oh, Ajit's going to perform. And he usually would be among the last three acts because it was like, the final act. So the person that's coming after me maybe is the bride or the groom or something like that. Right. So I was that kind of the final act. So I was really famous in that category. But as a teenager, I started hating that attention because teenager, right? I was like, I don't want to go to somebody's random party and dance. I don't want that. And so I started telling myself, I'm an introvert. I don't like people. And for 20 years of my life, I told that bullshit story to myself because that was convenient for me. And I made that a part of my identity until I realized that I chose that identity because it was a defense mechanism that I had set up way before, like way before. I'm not that person. I can be an introvert or an extrovert or whatever word, depending on who am I talking to. If I'm talking to someone that I like, I'm not an introvert. I'm a super extrovert. But if I'm not really enjoying the conversation, yeah, I act like an introvert. But that's the most human thing a person can do. Like I think every human being is like that in some way, right? Except if you're a people pleaser, it's a whole different category of problems. But in that scenario, if you really think about it, that means all of us have multiple identities hidden within us that we have chosen to either elevate or de-escalate, right? We de-escalated anything that we thought is hurting us as a defense mechanism. So we said, okay, let's hide this part of me. And we highlighted the part of us that got us love, affection, being seen, being heard. And so we said, we are all of this and we are not all of this. But both of them are available to you at any given time. You just have to make the switch. You just have to go, okay, no, I want this part of me to come out. It'll still be unique to you, but it will be completely different to what you may have perceived previously. Right. So that's kind of it's very it's intensive work. It takes us like 3 days to take a person through an immersive experience of identity shift. But you absolutely can shift within a matter of 3 days of really leaning into your future identity, and then 90 days of follow-up work approximately. Sometimes it could be a little long, but usually within the frame of 90 days, you can completely shift who you are as a person by doing some identity work. So that's the summary of it all.
I want to just, for the benefit of our listeners, explain from a slightly different context of what you so beautifully articulated to everybody. And that is that regardless of how we come to the lie, we have pigeonholed us into a belief, and we believe we are a certain way, and then we create the limitations and the restrictions within the mind of what we believe we're possible or capable of having, being, doing, or achieving, because this is who we are. And so we can only live or play in this place. And what you're essentially doing is helping people rewire who they believe they are, and they opening themselves up to possibility. And everything that we want to have and be and do is outside of that box that has created the limitations of who we are.
So true. And because of we keep telling ourselves a story, we also look for evidence to validate that story. If you know the red car experiment, which is if I told you how many red cars did you see coming to your work, you may not be able to tell, but if you next day go with that intention saying I'm going to see red cars today, you end up seeing every red car that passed by, and you can even maybe give me a count by the time you get to your work. So it's just one of those things, because and you've done it so many times, so for so long, so unconsciously, you just don't even think anything else is possible, right? And because we don't think anything is possible, we contain ourselves in this box. But most of these boxes are so easy to not easy, but it's very important to break those boxes, because that is the reason why we limit our lives, is because we think we can't get out of the box, but there is no box.
Do you think that that is the reason for your success? I mean, to be the CEO of Mindvalley for such a long period of time and to create such profound impact and to grow the organization at the level that it grew to at, that is unbelievable. And I would imagine so many people in that position would say, that's who I am and that's my identity. And then, you move on and you create something else, and then you turn that into, and for the context for our audience, you didn't just do $1 million in each business. We're talking about multi-million dollar businesses. And so we're talking 8-figure companies, and you've created 3 of them, and you just now sold one. And so it's like, again, speaking into, you're not tied or limited to anything. You used a word that I want every single person to pay attention to. And if they were to take that word and tattoo it somewhere in their body so they never forget, not to say that we all should walk around with tattoos, but you use the word to be curious. And if we were just curious about why we think this way or why we feel this way or what our passion is, and I love that, because it's in the curiosity that we create the potentials of more. Would you say that being curious is what has driven your power and success?
Absolutely. And curiosity, I mean, I'm grateful that I get to talk about the outside success of companies that I've built and sold and helped build or whatever. And that's wonderful. But I think it's an important curiosity, important skill, important habit to have in every area of your life. Every area of life that I have gotten curious about, I have found that there are parts of me that I discover, the parts of it that I discover that allows me to have a beautiful relationship, a beautiful body that I get to enjoy now, beautiful kids that I get to have great parenting relationship, beautiful friendships, beautiful business partners, the places I live. Everything is more amazing because I became really present to what's honest for me. And what's honest for me as a person, what's honest for me as desires. And increasingly, and more I get clear on this, the more and more my life continues to be beautiful, become more and more beautiful for me, is that I have very limited. Actually, I take no input. Maybe sometimes unconsciously, maybe I do, but consciously, I'm aware and I'm always cleaning any weeds I get from the world, if I may call them that. Because what happens is we are constantly stimulated by the world around us, and there's no way around it. We have devices that give us that. We live in a social structure, so it gives us that. So we go into 2 extremes. One extreme is we are hyper connected through the world of media, and because of that, we are stimulated at all times. But while being stimulated at those times, we don't actually have those many ways to actually express and understand of what we actually got as input. So most of us have, and I'm talking about average American, right? And I think average global, but I don't think we have data on it. But average American, their day looks something like this. They wake up, they go to work, they do the work, they still get stimulated by media and conversation through the work. They don't really have really great friends at work. Maybe they have one, but that's pretty much it. They come back home, they hang out with their partner, they talk about the work, and then they watch media again. while consuming media on their phone, right? So an average person's day is structured around consumption, not expression, right? So we are taking all this and we are believing whatever world is telling us to be true. The challenge with that is because there is no processing environment, the awareness of self dips massively. Now our understanding of self gets limited to how the world sees us. We don't have a true understanding of self. And when you don't have a true understanding of self, it is rather unlikely that you will create something that you will be really passionate about. It's rather unlikely that you will have a purpose. It's rather unlikely that you will have meaningful relationships, because everything or every input that you have is stimulated from outside in, not inside out.
Mm. And that is why we named the podcast the Empowered Life Podcast, because it comes from within. Everything lies within. I want to just say, I'm so grateful for having you here. I think you're an incredible human being doing profound work out in the world. Clearly, you are very good at your ability to be able to coach, to lead, to move, to inspire people, to empower people, not empower them to live their greatest life. I would love to know from your vantage point, because we're seeing right now coaching is the fastest growing industry. You're speaking into beautifully that the world is awakening at a different level and we need more people to be coaches. But there's so many people I would imagine are listening to this conversation and thinking, I want to be a coach, but there's so many coaches. How on earth could I possibly break through? How could I possibly make a dent? How am I ever going to get my name out there? How do I compete with everyone else that's already doing this and they've been doing it for so long? Where do you feel is the point where we're going to have too many coaches, or do you still feel like the demand is so big that if somebody is wanting to or aspiring to, that they should lean into their ability to be able to share their gift?
So we have something that, and I don't know if this is a technical term or not, but there's something called the spotlight effect. Spotlight effect is when we are looking at the world, we think everybody's looking at us, right? And that's called the spotlight effect, that we think that everybody's watching us. Have you ever, I'm sure it has happened to you at some point, maybe it doesn't happen anymore, but most of us go around and they go, oh, are they looking at me? You're walking and you think you're wearing a funny shirt or something and you're thinking people are looking at you. And that's one of the classic challenges that happens when somebody's pursuing a career like coaching, is they think, oh, everybody's looking at them and everybody is a coach and everybody is pursuing this career. You are actually in a box is why you think everybody is a coach. You're in a box is why you're thinking that there are too many coaches in the world. Last we checked, there may be 200,000 coaches in the world, maybe. It's probably less than that. If you look at ICF, which is just one of the many places where they record who all are coaches in the world, I think their last data said 60,000, right? But I'm going to just go out on a whim and say we have, let's say, 300,000 coaches in the world, right? There are 8 billion people in the world. There are 300 million Americans, if you just talk about America. 300 million Americans, of which you have only, even if all 300,000 stayed in US, is only 300,000 coaches. So no, there is not too many coaches in the world. And that I also say with the confidence that if you talk to somebody, especially now who's under 30, they are already turned on to the idea of but awareness to a particular sense that we didn't have or our parents didn't have. They didn't think personal growth. A 30 or under thinks personal growth. They already are embedded into the system. They know they need it, right? You also need to understand that at any given time, if I was to talk about business coaching, for example, for just a second, every year, and I hope I got my numbers right here, but I think every year about 4 million new businesses get registered globally. 4 million, of which 90% shut down within the first year. That leaves us with 400,000 new businesses every year. Even if there were 400,000 new coaches I produced every year, that only leads to one coach to one business. That's it. And that's enough for you to make as much money you want, by the way. Right? And that's for new businesses. Now think about the businesses that are already existing, that are active, that do millions and millions and millions in revenue. They don't have coaches. Do you know the number one reason why entrepreneurs shut down their businesses or cannot get, or why it's said that you get into a glorified job as an entrepreneur? It's because they don't have a coach. Nobody tells them how to run a business. They start a business because they're passionate about something. They don't have any education. They don't know how to build a business. They don't know how to do finances. They don't know how to do leadership. They need a coach. The problem is because there's people who are qualified individuals who think, oh, there are too many coaches. They don't get certified. They don't learn how to coach. And because they don't learn how to coach, they don't approach these businesses. And guess what happens? These businesses shut down. It's the same with people. It's the same with relationships. There is too few coaches in the world. I think at peak, we need maybe about 10 million coaches in the world in the coming 20 years.
I asked that question because I've heard you talk on this topic before, and I wanted to set the stage because there are people that are listening to the platform that want to be coaches, but their immediate reaction is, oh, there's so many, how do I compete? And then the insecurity and the limiting beliefs come in. So my follow-up question to that, if you could articulate that in a few moments for us, is just how do you support someone, or what could you give somebody as advice right now that could support them in breaking through in becoming a really good coach?
So most of the people that get curious about coaching are probably, and I'm going to go out on a whim here, but they're probably already exposed to the idea of good leadership or good coaching generally. Without really understanding how it works, they tend to be good people or good understanding. They tend to be curious naturally. They tend to be interested naturally. That's why they get turned on to the idea of saying, maybe I should be a coach, or I want to look into this coaching career, because there are 1,000 careers to look at. Why are you looking at this one? It's because you're naturally curious. You're probably naturally interested in human beings. You're probably somewhat turned into personal growth or psychology or something like that. Is why you're like, I'm interested in this career, right? So first of all, it's a great green check mark for you if you're that person. Right. The second thing is, now you want to ask yourself, hey, how do I organize my understanding that allows me to make this a real career? Right. And like any career that you may have chosen in your life, it takes a minute. Right. It's not like today you decide I'm a coach and tomorrow you're a coach. You're not. Or you're going to be really bad one because you have taken no education around it. Take some education around it. Now, we at Mindvalley offer tons of them. Go to mindvalley.com/certs, CERTS, and you'll see a few options that you have there. We have life coaching, business coaching, hypnotherapy, and we also help with a format of health, which is called Hollow Body. So we have many certifications that you can take. It takes only about 4 months to get a system, a structure. And that's what it is. It's a system and a structure. Don't worry about, is this the know all, be all, it all? No, it's just a system so you can organize your thoughts, your experience of life, and put into a structure that you can now take to anyone to create a transformation in their lives, right? So first, learn any structure. Even if you don't like Mindvalley, you want to go somewhere else, it's up to you. But we do probably, our NPS score, Net Promoter Score for our certifications is 80 plus. I don't think any other organization has that in the world. At least I haven't heard of any, or I've not heard anybody boast about their Net Promoter Score or their stories like the way we do about how it transforms lives. So anyway, so the point really being, go find a program that structures your thought and your thinking so you have a structure to coach people. That's all you're really going for. And once you have that, I would say start working with people that are 2 degrees away. By 2 degrees away is, don't work with your friends and family. And I really recommend don't do that, because what happens when you're coaching your friends and family is they have an existing baggage about you. They believe something about you to be true, which is a version of you. It's not the absolute truth about you. And so when you're coaching them, for lack of a better term, they judge you. Let's just say it that way, right? And you don't want, when you're just starting into a new career, somebody to judge what you're doing, right? It's like if you just became a computer programmer and the first line of code you wrote, somebody came behind you and said, that's a shitty code, right? You don't want that. You want somebody to say, all right, that was, you tried, let's do this better this way, right? That's the kind of clientele you want in the starting. And so 2 degrees away is more forgiving. They are more understanding. They're usually taking what they want to take, and they're not so concerned about you and your capability. So it's a little bit easier to coach them because they don't come with judgment. So I would do that. And once you've gotten some traction, then once you know, okay, this is the kind of work I want to do, then look for either specialized knowledge in that field, or that's when you actually lean into, how do I market my products? How do I market my service? Who do I reach out to? How do I reach out to them?
Beautiful. Thank you. I wanted to bring our episode to a close today by sharing that you are giving away a free book. And I think that it's such a generous way for people who have a unique vantage point, that have learned and gained profound life skills, and then they put it into a context so that somebody else can learn what they've learned in a shorter amount of time. And you wanted to offer that to our audience for free, and it's the Live Big book. And so I just want to firstly say thank you so much for Live Big and for offering it. We're going to put the link in the show notes so everybody can grab a copy. What do you feel is the biggest takeaway that somebody's going to get in having finished reading your book?
So Live Big is designed for entrepreneurs. It's an entrepreneur's guide to passion, practicality, and purpose. And the reason why I wrote this book is because I found most entrepreneurs struggle to either get started or get to a place where they're really joyous in their career and joyous in their business. And so I wrote this guide to be able to give ideas that you can read. Like, every chapter is so short that you can read probably right before going to bed in like 10 minutes. And it's like the perfect thing to go to bed with, because it's inspiring, it's inspirational, it's motivating. And next morning when you wake up with rejuvenated energy. You don't have to read it sequentially. The chapters are written in a way that you can just quickly read it. You can keep it by your desk. And if you're feeling like it's that kind of day where you need a little pick me up, just pick up, flip over to any chapter, and it will usually give you the message that you really need to hear. So that's how this book is designed. It's designed for entrepreneurs who are in it. And it is designed around the ideas that are practical, that are from a place of passion, and are also purposeful.
I just want to, again, one more time, thank you so much for your time today, for sharing so beautifully and generously. I always talk about people that are leading with their heart, and how you can tell when somebody is committed in the further growth and development of every single one around them. And I one more time want to bring full circle you as the example, Ajit. I shamelessly use you as the example because I want people to see what's possible from a vantage point of success when you lead with love, kindness, compassion, and when you take steps every single day to stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone, to lean into being constantly curious and pushing the boundaries. And if anyone could learn, from just one sector of where you've created an impact, let alone every single area as you continue to grow and continue to thrive, it's just such a beautiful example of how we get to live life, and that we don't have to be limited by a box or a limitation or a belief or a confinement of our mind, and that we get to live this abundant, joyful life. For anyone that has heard you for the first time today and they're falling in love with the person that you are and how you show up, one of the things I love about you is you describe yourself as a loving husband and a father, and you're at home in your kitchen spending more time cooking a healthy meal, and you're just real and you show up beautifully. And just so from my heart to yours, I want to acknowledge you and I want to thank you. To everyone that is listening to the show, I'm going to put Ajit's information into the show notes. Coach Ajit, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being such a beautiful light out in the world and for offering the book. And for anybody who wants to follow, all of the links are going to be included below. Thank you so much. And for anyone else, we'll catch you in the next episode of the Empowered Life podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.